Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Coffee Shop Thursday. I know what you're thinking. What do you mean, Coffee Shop Thursday? You're sitting in your barn. You're not in a coffee shop. Well, yeah, you're right. I had to retreat to the barn because, I'll be honest with you, this is the only quiet spot I could find to record our meditation for this Thursday. Why, you ask? Well, it's because of all these noisy grandkids from both here in Medina and also from Lancaster, Ohio. They are noisy and they're having a great time, though. That's the thing. But to add to the cacophony, come Friday are going to be the grandkids from Rochester as well. So it doesn't get any easier. I might be back in the barn again. Who knows? So, hey, just bear with me. So, let's get right to it. What do you want to talk about? Hey, I know what we can talk about. We can talk about the Apostle Paul and how he was just getting beat up mercilessly by other so-called apostles, if you want to say that. Those who are bringing the gospel, carrying the gospel message to other people. But see, Paul had a special name for them. Yep. If you read 2 Corinthians, our passage for this coming Sunday comes from the 12th chapter of 2 Corinthians, and it's the first 10 verses. But, if you want to get a good feel for what's happening, you have to go back just a little bit into chapter 11. And there you discover that what's going on with the Apostle Paul, because he calls those who are giving him trouble super apostles. Super apostles. Yeah, it's just like Super Cat back there. Yep. So what's the deal? All right. Let's just back up one more step. Let's back up to chapter 10. If you take chapter 10, 11, 12, and 13 and kind of put them all together, there are some scholars who believe this was a separate letter of Paul to the Corinthian church. And what he is specifically doing in this letter is really launching into a defense of himself, because all these so-called super apostles are coming along and just berating Paul and saying, you didn't really want to listen to that guy. We're going to talk to you about the real gospel, not this stuff that Paul was talking about. And Paul is begging the Corinthian church, hey, don't listen to them. They've perverted the gospel. And you got to stay true to what I originally brought to you. So that is the essence of these 4 chapters. And it's a real reason why some feel it was a separate letter to Paul that got attached to 2 Corinthians that was being compiled by some editor so that it wouldn't be lost in space, so to speak, that it would be a part of our canon. And well, if that's what they intended to do, they were successful. Now we have it. But to make a long story short, Paul defends himself in a couple different ways. The first way is by saying, hey, it's not about boasting in your heritage, because I can do that. I'm a Jew. I have this long list of accomplishments, and he does this elsewhere too, but especially right here he does. So it's not that. And also, he said, it's also, you just can't boast about your so-called spiritual accomplishments, because that's not what it's about. It's about the love of God, the grace of God in our lives. And he does boast at one point here when he says, hey, I knew a guy who had this vision. He was caught up into heaven and he saw all this grand and glorious things that God revealed to him. Well, that other guy he's talking about is himself. So he does that, but he downplays it at the end by tacking on something rather interesting. You probably have already heard about it. I'll bet you even used it in conversation. Oh, that person over there is a thorn in my flesh. Yep, you just quoted from the Apostle Paul, a thorn in my flesh. And he said, God gave him this thorn in the flesh. Why? He prayed, he said 3 times, God, take it away. Well, it wasn't a literal thorn in the flesh. It was something we don't really know. It could have been a physical ailment of some sort. Some think it was eyesight was bad. It could have been a spiritual thing, something that troubled him deep in his soul. Maybe some yearning to be closer to God, and he just seemed to reach out just so far and just missed grasping on. And he's asking God, please, God, let me have a fuller understanding, and it just wasn't coming. Because in the end, what he said, God spoke to me, and he said, my grace is sufficient for you. My grace. And in the New Testament, that's charis. In the Old Testament, it's our good old friend, chesed. Yes, grace. That unmerited, undeserved love of God. So the Apostle Paul said, that is what gives me my apostolic authority. Nothing I can boast about. It's all what God has done for me, and now what God is doing through me for all of you. And isn't that the way we all should strive? So in a way, this is a good time to be like Paul. Be like Paul. Not that you want to get in a shipwreck or get beat up and get 39 lashes 3 or 4 times and be stoned a few times. And we don't want that. But we want to be those who remain faithful to God and share His love. His love that, in a sense, is perfected in our weakness. Well, God's blessings be with you. I don't know if you could hear during this recording or not, but those kids outside, they're having a blast right now out in the dark. They're catching fireflies and they're doing some other stuff too. And they're just having a goofy, crazy time. So enjoy your coming weekend, this 4th of July weekend, and especially enjoy your days with your extended families. God's blessings be with you.